Welcome to Second Watch with Rod Babers. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by the Rod Babers, former Longhorn, former NFL player. He is an analyst here for us at On Texas Football. Rod, I tell you what, the Longhorns came away with a big win yesterday. We do Second Watch each and every Sunday after a game. You got a chance to rewatch the game in a little bit slower detail and more attention to it. You told me in the pre-production meeting that a couple things stood out to you. First of all, the offensive explosion and what it means and what you think about that. We're going to talk about that today. And then also, we're going to talk about the Texas secondary and the breakdowns late in the game. Two of the major pressing news and notes, I guess, coming out of this game. This episode brought to you by our friends over at Duck Camp, duckcamp.com. We'll tell you a little bit more about them later. Rod, first and foremost, though, I want to ask you, this Texas offense, what did you see in your rewatch that you liked?
What didn't I like? It was, I think, easily the most impressive all-around performance from the offense. So yeah, I think you got to start with the offensive line and the tweak they made with Cole Hudson at guard, Connor Robertson at center. You know, the offense now, I do think, is a product of the coaches tinkering. It may have taken them a little too long, in Longhorn fans' opinion, tinkering with the recipe, experimenting with different things to see what works with this particular group. And I do think they found a bit of a recipe. And I think part of it was, I always say coaches are problem solvers, trying to solve the problems on the offensive line. Looks like they may have found their best five now in perfect time for it. So in addition to that, so you got better offensive line play, period overall, no sacks allowed. But I think the game plan by Sark, I went and looked at it. Time to throw for Arch, 2.5 seconds. It was his fastest time to throw of the season. Got the ball out of his hands extremely quick. He only ended up having one scramble in this game because he didn't need to. He had plenty of time in the pocket to work. And what also I love about the Sark game plan is early on here in this game, he did play the hits, right? That quick perimeter screen out there.
Yes.
He presented it in different ways, but I think I counted 5 times they ran it in just the first half alone. So once again, being stubborn about something that's working, about a game plan that's working. I think he was really stubborn in that first half. It seems like part of the recipe is also up tempo. He talked about that prior to the game. He was going to use more tempo, and they certainly did. I think for 3 quarters, you saw them use tempo and weaponize it and put a lot of pressure on that Vanderbilt defense. Also, I think something that's part of it is pass first. It was a pass-first philosophy. It was clear that the run was secondary. The run was complementing the passing game. Now, the passing game, because it was such a short passing game, your average depth of target ended up being the second lowest of the season, behind only the Oklahoma game versus Power 4 teams. I'm not counting the Sam Houston State and UTEP and San Jose State. I'm forgetting about that. We're deep into it now. So against Power 4 teams, that was your lowest average depth of target, behind only the Oklahoma game. It was 6.1 yards. So essentially, a lot of your passes were long handoffs. So they were easy completions for your quarterback. So yes, it wasn't necessarily the run game, but it was an extension of the run game. All those quick short passes ended up with 250 YAC yards as a result of that, Bobby. 250. So 76% of passing yards for Arch were YAC yards. The YAC is back in Sark's offense. It was so bad. The YAC yards, just to give you a little, just to kind of give you some context about this. In the Ohio State game, you only had 65 yards of YAC. In the Florida game, 56. In the Oklahoma game and Kentucky game, barely over 100 in both of those games. Mississippi State, 200 YAC yards. In this game versus Vandy, 250 YAC yards. So Sark has figured out something. I think in the last 2 weeks, it's pretty clear they're using the higher percentage passing game, right, to try to weaponize YAC. And I think it's a really good idea. So quick game has also been emphasized. And I think the pass first philosophy, like I said, you were 59% early game, early down pass rate. Talking about the first half on first and second down in this game, you used the pass to set up the run. And he did it. And a marvelous job, by the way, of setting up the run. Because I thought early on they were able to run the ball consistently early in the game. Later in the game, I think the stats will show that they ran the ball. They less than 4 yards per carry, something like that. But there were times early in the game where I thought Texas was able to lean on them with the run game, and you could tell the tempo, all of it was starting to put a lot of pressure on that Vanderbilt defense. So I think they found their recipe. 11 personnel, also a big part of it. I think they had 65% 11 personnel in the first half. Usually Sark is a 50 to 55% 11 personnel guy. So less 12 personnel, more 11 personnel, which is 1 back, 1 tight ends. So less of the 12 personnel, which is 1 back, 2 tight ends. That's becoming more situational if this recipe sticks, if we actually see it again, a carryover from 1 week to the next.
I wrote this morning, it felt like more of a Quinn Ewers style game plan,
Yes,
right?
Yep.
That was something that I noticed. The other thing I would say is that 250 yards after the catch, obviously Ryan Wingo was a huge piece of that on the very first day of the game. But the thing that I wanted to follow that up with is Ryan went out in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't just come from Ryan Wingo. It came from DeAndre Moore, Parker Livingston, Trey Wisner even, as well, of course, as Emmett Mosley. So it wasn't just any one player that was providing that yard after catch. It was a multitude. And that's kind of what we hoped this offense would be going into the season, right? Is that you couldn't really double one receiver versus another, et cetera. And I think now that they have their 4-man rotation, really, it's getting better. Even Dalen McCutcheon came in and made a nice catch and run too. And Jack Endry's made a couple nice catches and runs after that. It's starting to. It feels like this game was a type of game where Texas fans could see the future of the Texas.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. This is how it's going to look. I was going to add this. Clark Lee, in his post-game press conference, Rod, commented on the perimeter blocking for the Longhorns being really, really good. He felt like they did a great job of that. And that's something, frankly, that all of us here have been questioning a little bit, is that perimeter blocking. From your vantage point, when we talk about what Arch and this offensive line did, do you think it was the offensive line giving Arch more time? Do you think it was the quick game? Was it a single point of emphasis that changed for you, the whole dynamic? Like, for example, the quicker passing game, it means the offensive line doesn't have to protect as long, right?
Yep.
Same time, Sark in his postgame mentioned that Manning one time got to his 4th read over the middle on a 3rd down. And so they held up in pass. Does that give them more of a chance to compete, that offensive line, on a regular basis?
I feel like they got into a rhythm and got confidence in pass protection because of the quick. Part of it was the quick game insulating the pass protection a little bit. But as you pointed out, there were times as the game went on where they would get into some straight drop back and get deep into progressions, and he still had time. There were only 6 pressures, guys, by Vandy. 6. That's it, the entire game. They had, I think, 1 quarterback hit and 5 quarterback hurries. And so I do think it was a combination. I think that's the beauty of it. I think Arch was also seen to feel very well and delivering the ball really well. We talk about the YAC in this game. Well, you don't get that YAC if you don't have accurate throws where guys can get the football and then be able to get that run after the catch. And he delivered the football really well, like with pinpoint accuracy a lot of times on those short, quick throws. And, I went and looked at it. If you go look at the behind the line of scrimmage throws, right, for Arch in this game, he averaged over 13 yards per attempt on behind the line of scrimmage throws. He averaged over only 8.4 yards per attempt on 10+ yard throws. Like, let that sink in a little bit, right? Because that's kind of what the short passing game worked really well. Now, this may have been matchup specific, but I think Sark did a really good job of being stubborn with it. And I don't know if it carries over to the next game. We'll see, because the next opponent may be a little bit better at tackling on the perimeter, may have better athletes out there. But I do think this is a great starting point. We talk about things you do really well. What's your identity? What can you hang your hat on? I think they found a few things they can hang their hat on offensively that they do really well. And I think passing to open up the run is kind of what it is. They're featuring their wide receivers, who honestly now that is the most talented group that you have on the football field. And Arch is right now he's the catalyst. And so I think leading with the pass, although it may seem kind of irresponsible, kind of based on how erratic and inconsistent the offense has been, I think that's part of your formula. And I think you gotta lean into it.
Before we get to defense, I want to ask you one more question. You played defensive back in the NFL, right? You played against great quarterbacks. Was there one throw in particular that you remember from Arch yesterday we go, that was a big time throw. I've got one in mind, but I want to see if mine matches yours.
Oh, that is good. What's his big? Yeah, because he had so many short throws. I like that DeAndre Moore throw. There was a throw DeAndre Moore in a deep out. It was like a double post.
It was an over route
Yeah.
that kind of drug into the sideline.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a nice throw time. I believe it was straight drop back. It might have been play action. But that was one of the best ones in my opinion. I'm trying to go back and that's a good question though.
I've got one. Here's mine.
Give me one.
3rd and 4 to DeAndre Moore on an out and just beyond the sticks.
Oh yeah, they had a stack formation.
Oh yeah, and it was. That play. That's an NFL throw, and I know it was only for like 5 yards, but he had. Yeah. I mean, he put it only where DeAndre Moore could catch it, kept the drive alive, and I was like, that was a big time throw. That was a guy because if he comes up short on that and throws it short, that's a pick 6.
Yeah.
No, you're right. The DB had guarded it well.
They were sitting on that route. They knew they were going to the sticks. They just didn't know how they were going to get it.
Yes, and so that was in all the big plays we saw yesterday. That one stuck in my mind like, ooh, you see that on Sundays because it was a narrow window, piece situation, clutch throw. But to your point, there were a number. I mean, he was on fire yesterday, no doubt about it. All right, before we move over to the secondary and defense. That may not be as pretty of a discussion if it's getting cold here with Rod. I want to say thank you to our sponsor. Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's in a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff. Born right here in Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From sun protection shirts that keep you cool during those early season scorchers to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics. Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season. It opened on November 1, by the way. And every season in between, get out there, stay out there and hook them. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com. Special news and note for On Texas Football users, use the promo code ONTexas25 for 25% off. It's getting around Christmas time. Make sure you use this code ONTexas25 for 25% off. Thank you so much for your sponsorship of On Texas Football. All right, talking about that secondary, Rod, you are a former defensive back. I'm going to open the mic and you go, my man.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty toward the end there. I mean, obviously, the injuries are a big part of it. No Taft. He's I call him the master communicator back there. Didn't have him. Jelani McDonald goes down. Xavier Fields-Smith goes down. So you're a thin back there. But that's no excuse for the coverage bust. That's a big issue back there. And even, like I said, I think where teams are attacking Texas is they're attacking the linebacker depth. Not always linebackers, but linebacker depth. That's why the crossing routes. That's why tight ends. Did I try to warn you guys about the tight ends? I believe now Texas has in the last 3 games defended 31 targets to tight ends. 31 targets tight ends. And I believe those tight ends they've gained 17 first downs and 3 touchdowns.
On 31 targets.
Mm-hmm.
17 first downs.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Stover was Sowers, excuse me. He was fantastic. He was great versus Texas. He's an elite. I mean, that guy's gonna play in the NFL. But my point is that's where they're attacking that area, and they did it again. The touchdown right before the half that Sark was upset about. Texas was in basically too high. I don't think they were in cover 2 pretty much. And they were empty formation, I believe, and you can tell that the linebacker was misaligned there. Should have easily, saw that there was 3-by-2, went to at least shaded over to the trip side. He did not. He stayed to the short side of the field, which was the twin side of the field. And then it was an easy pitch and catch. And Sark was upset about that because I think he was like, man, just alignment alone would have forced the quarterback to hold on to the ball just a second longer. So it was just simple things like that. The Stowers, the Eli Stowers touchdown, 67-yarder, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That one was, like I said, the Boston coverage was so bad. I'm not sure if it was quarters or cover 2. I think it was cover 2 because it was inverted. It was an inverted Tampa look with inverted 3 high, and they end up dropping 2 deep safeties. But Jalen Gilbo's side, he doesn't sink. He doesn't carry number 1. Usually when you're in cover 2 as a cover 2 corner, you're covering the flat. Number 2 goes vertical, which happened there. You carry number 1, help your safety out, especially if there's no threat in the flat. There was no threat in the flat. Running back went away. You would think that he would carry it, but he didn't. So he was kind of playing a country, what they call country coverage, which is you're just defending an area of the field and not defending the actual play and not defending an actual player or receiver. And so you can see him in the footage. He's pointing to the safety. I was like, I don't know why he's pointing at the safety. I think he should be there because Trey Moore drops back. I believe they only rushed 3 in that situation. So I just think the guys, they seemed a little bit out of sorts. Just bad communication. Coverage busts are not something characteristic of this group, even if they get beat. So I think now with one thing also that Vanderbilt did a really good job was moving the pocket. That was probably their best adjustment of the game. Was starting to move the pocket. And they ended up getting a lot of big plays moving the pocket. Matter of fact, the 4th and 19. He rolls.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of their big plays where he's just kind of rolling out in the pocket. And so I just think Texas coverage is very leaky. The pass rush is elite, just like we anticipated before the season. It took it a while to get going, but that pass rush is elite, and you are deep on the edges. I don't know if there are too many programs that are as deep as Texas on the edges, but your coverage is not as snug. It's not going to be as tight of coverage as we thought it would be. It's not sticky. They have a lot of leaky coverage. I think one thing they do, I would say, a lackluster job of is reading the quick game. When the guys are playing off, we used to read 3-step. Now we were playing a lot of man coverage, or read 3-step, and it's essentially your first read is the quarterback. And once he's past his 3-step, I snap back to the receiver and then find your receiver, and then you kind of work your progression from there as a DB based on what your technique is. These guys don't necessarily read quick game. Now they're playing zone, but you can still read the quick game. I mean, quarterback, he's going to take 1 step out of shotgun and deliver the ball, or he's going RPO and still delivering the football. I mean, that's all just that's a different variation of quick game. And the guys are locked on a lot of the times on receiver. They start out looking at the quarterback and then they go right to the receiver. And I don't think they're necessarily reading quick game. By the time Pavi is up throwing that quick pass, their eyes are on the receiver. You would get a jump if you would stay on the quarterback a half a second longer to read the quick game. And once he's done with the quick game drop, then snap back to the receiver and find your receiver, and then go through your progressions going from number 1 to number 2, or number 2 to number 1, whatever it may be, depending on the coverage. So I'd recommend take your quick game key from the quarterback. Now, some people say that may get you in trouble if you end up having to defend a double move, but those are rare. And as long as you stay on the upfield shoulder, all right, as long as you're not jumping the route, you stay on the upfield shoulder, you're at least be able to meet the receiver at the catch point. Instead of being so far back at times, you got to chase the receiver down and tackle him. So I think that's one of my big issues. I watched it a lot in that game, and I think they're going to start reading the quick game a little bit better as DBs on the outside. I think we'll give them a jump on some of those underneath routes because they're not too deep. They're about 8 yards deep every time, but they retreat. And I think if you're reading the quarterback for quick game, you wouldn't retreat as quickly because you'd see, oh, quarterback's already looking at my guy. He's up, something's up, and then you would, I think, break the football a little bit faster.
A lot of people disappointed, and deservedly so, in the fourth quarter performance of the secondary. But I would say this. A lot of people thought, oh, well, Texas should be as good this year as they were last year in the secondary. Well, you're missing a first-round pick at corner, the Thorpe Award winner. You're missing a second-rounder who's now starting for the Philadelphia Eagles, defending world Super Bowl champs.
Yeah.
They lost personnel, and then they lost 3 other top guys in the second. They lost Jelani McDonald and Michael Taft never played. I mean, you're talking about a young and inexperienced secondary, largely that was on the field in the second half, or particularly in the fourth quarter when Xavier Filsaime also went down. He was only playing his second big game, his career even, and he went down, and that forced Jonah Williams. At one point, they were playing 3 true freshmen in the secondary at a single time in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
We have seen, and that's Cade Phillips, Jonah Williams, as well as Grayson Littleton. Now, Littleton's got plenty of experience now, but my point being for everybody is just like we saw Arch Manning struggle with inexperience at times. You got to afford that same kind of understanding to other positions on the field. And, you know, the secondary is a challenging thing because you're reacting to what the offense at large is trying to do and have run and pass responsibilities. I feel like there's some overreaction there from some fans. Could they have lost the game because of it? Maybe. But my point being, in a bigger way, is that I feel like Texas, overall, Rod, at least, played good for 3 quarters. When the pass rush didn't get home late, they were exposed. I think the Stowers reception kind of caused a lack of confidence the rest of the way in that secondary. And the 4th and 19, should they have gotten that? Wow. Yeah, but to your point, they moved the pocket, caught them a little bit, and then I felt like after that the secondary lost all confidence, and the pass rush wasn't getting home.
It wasn't. They had the F1 package out there too. Remember, up until they get the 4th and 19 because of that, so the Ethan Burke sack. And they kept the F1 package out there because they assumed, it's definitely going to work. They get the 4th and 19. They leave the F1 package out there, but they become almost a non-factor because they're so worn out and so tired because Vanderbilt's starting to go up tempo and the way they're moving, and they're chasing Pavia all over the field as well. And so that's what really happened was the pass rush. Even though Texas has one of the best pass rushes in the country, it was not a major factor. I mean, Texas, you see, they took Colin Simmons out toward the end. They didn't want to do that. They knew they leaving them in too long. Guys get hurt like that. So Texas has been rotating their guys. That's part of what this formula that makes them one of the best pass rushers in the country because they're really deep and they come at you fresh. But when Texas doesn't have the pass rush, they are vulnerable in coverage. And the thing that upsets me, Bobby, most about Texas, listen, you're going to get beat. I am nobody to call these guys out about getting beat. Robbie got beat. Y'all can pull up film Robbie getting beat, okay? It happens, all right? But my rule was this, and I always said, if I become a DB coach, this is my rule. I'm going to tell my guys, listen, you're going to get beat. Everybody does. But you got to make as many plays as you give up. I need you to make as many plays on the ball as you give up. If you ain't doing that, then we got a problem, all right? And that's the issue right now for me. They ain't making plays on the ball, Bobby. How many PBUs they got? 2 games.
Yeah.
How many times guys get it? They give you a lot of opportunities. They throwing the ball 30 times a game. I'm gonna need you to get your hands on it. So, like I said, it's okay to get beat. Guys get beat. I'm not here to be high and mighty. Like Robbie never got beat. Nope, I got beat. But I made plays on a football too. If you're gonna target me 3-4 times, one of them, you better watch it because I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna win my fair share. And I don't think they're not winning their fair share right now. That's my biggest issue right now with the secondary. How many PBUs they got in the last 2 games? Pro Football Focus says 0.
Well, definitely room for improvement there, right? Hopefully, Jelani McDonald, we believe, should be back for Georgia. Just a quick note there, as well as Michael Taft, who's recovering from hand surgery. So hopefully that'll help and provide some consistency and reliability, and maybe let the other guys play a little bit more free. But we shall see. Those two games, by the way, neither which Michael Taft played in too.
Speak on it. I'm with you, Bobby.
A little bit of, and it's not necessarily Michael Taft alone, but it's him helping others get into position to do things too.
Agreed.
So, all right, Rod, thank you so much. Any final thoughts before we let folks go today?
A lot of optimism now for this group because that was almost a complete game. They were so close to a complete game, all 3 phases for 4 quarters, and we had carryover. We had carryover from one game, Mississippi State, to the next game. That is the hope that the next game, obviously you have a bye week, but the next game that you'll get carryover from what we saw, and we'll start to recognize, this is what this team does well. This is who they are as a team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But I thought the rewatch, I said for 3 quarters, it was an excellent performance, and I just thought the defense kind of lost their way toward the. I think they relaxed. Honestly, I think the defense overall relaxed when they got up big, and I think that's kind of what led to them getting those big plays, mental lapses and things of that nature. I don't expect that to carry over.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again to our sponsor, duckcamp.com. Again, guys, use that promo code ontexas25. That's ontexas25 for 25% off. Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook them. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com using promo code ontexas25 for 25% off. All right, Rod B, thank you so much. You'll be back on a little bit later today with Jerry Hamilton for
That's right.
a live stream tonight. Look forward to getting your questions in, and Rod and Jerry will take care of them and try to answer them the best they can. But until next time, Rod Babers, thank you so much. Thanks again to Matt Hutchison, our producer. I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good day. Texas now 7-2. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.